DK Audio presents The Complete Idiot's Guide to the Middle Ages by Timothy C. Hall, read by Tom Alexander. Introduction. People associate the Middle Ages with a period of darkness in Europe. To most, the people of the Middle Ages were barbaric and uncivilized, and modern civilization seems to be far superior in comparison. This belief about the Middle Ages is wrong. If you examine the Middle Ages, you will start to see some uncomfortable similarities to our superior modern age, including a gap between the rich and the poor, violent acts done in the name of God, gangs of barbarians threatening the peace, poverty and migration created by war, questions over the authority of church and state, people looking for riches in the wrong places, and diseases without cures. Maybe after you listen to this book, you'll realize that the modern world is not so different. This history of the Middle Ages begins with the breakup of the Roman Empire and ends at the dawn of the Renaissance. It studies the political, economic, social, and cultural development of the three successor cultures of Rome: Byzantine, Islamic, and Germanic, with an emphasis on the latter. Among the topics to be covered in this book will be the end of Rome, the rise of Christianity, the era of Germanic migrations, the Germanic West, the Catholic Church in the West, the Carolingian Empire, the 9th century invasions, feudalism and manorialism, the Byzantine Empire, the rise of Islam, the Crusades, the development of medieval kingdoms and nation-states, class structure in the Middle Ages, the Renaissance of the High Middle Ages, the Mongol invasions, and the beginnings of the Reformation. This book also surveys the impact of these topics on the modern world. The study of the Middle Ages includes several recurring themes: the causes and effects of the migration of people, the creation and expansion of kingdoms and nations, the development of religion and culture, the conflict and cooperation between church and state, the people and their response to the environment, the growth of trade and commerce. So with the themes in focus, I wrote without placing as much emphasis on every historical detail. Instead, I have tried to paint the historical picture with broad, sweeping thematic strokes. How this book is organized. Part 1. The Early Middle Ages, 550 to 1000, starts with the fall of the Roman Empire and the development of Western civilization from its rubble in Europe. But this development is not immediate. Several factors make it unique. As the Roman Empire reaches its peak, it is converted into a Christian empire. It is the Christian Roman Empire that rules over Europe, Asia, and Africa. Later, as that empire declines and collapses, it leaves three cultures behind that influence the events of the European Middle Ages. These cultures are the Byzantine, Islamic, and Germanic cultures. Europe, once free of the Roman Empire, is overrun by the primitive and disorganized Germanic tribes. But the institutions of the Christian religion of the Roman Empire continue during this time and become the glue that holds Europe together. After a short period of stability during the reign of Charlemagne, Germanic tribes of Europe are transformed in kingdoms as they create new political and economic systems based on both Germanic and Roman structures. Part 2. The High Middle Ages, 1000 to 1300, begins with Europe seeing improvements from darker days of the early Middle Ages. There was a new optimism in Europe. In politics, the kingdoms of Europe were becoming more effective. Part of this was because the threat of invasions from the Vikings, Magyars, and Muslims was declining. In addition, the climate of the continent got warmer. A warmer climate, coupled with new inventions, allowed the manners of Europe to produce surplus crops. With the surplus, population and economic activity increased. With more people and trades, the older cities of Europe expanded, and new cities appeared. Also, with economic prosperity came an intellectual and cultural flowering. The Church developed Christian theology more in depth than it had since the time of late antiquity and the early Church. Universities like Oxford and the University of Paris were founded to educate a new professional and intellectual class made of nobles and a new middle class. From these universities came new ideas of self-awareness, reason, and logic. Part 3. The Late Middle Ages, 1300 to 1500, begins with the beginning of a
Sample complete. Ready to continue?